In this episode, we're kicking off Series 2 on the good life. We're going to start this series with a smattering of Hellenistic philosophers whose ideas are rooted in the same cardinal virtues, but veer away from each other in important ways that are still found in the nuances of how people seek out different forms of flourishing. But because we're us, I'll also be talking about Diogenes today, my favorite millennia past intellectual humorist. Welcome to From What We've Gathered with hosts Dani Nelson and Kylie Shahar.
Let's go for a ride. It'll be like this. Oh, okay. So I am talking and I am not moving my mouth.
Hi, Kylie.
Hi, Dani.
You know, we usually start this off with a scenario.
We do.
But today, we have a little kind of extra part to this where we're going to introduce the idea of the cardinal virtues because we'll be covering those for the next several episodes. But to start this whole discussion of what the cardinal virtues, like why is this such a movement into the Hellenistic period? And you know what? Let's talk about where all the best known people got their ideas.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's talk about someone like Aristotle. And his teacher was Plato. And then Plato's teacher, Socrates.
Socrates.
Well, so let's talk about who we're going to talk about today. Diogenes. His teacher was Antisthenes. Guess who his teacher was?
Ooh, pick me.
All right, it's you, Kylie.
It's Socrates?
Yes! And then later in the series, we're going to be talking about Zeno, whose teacher was Crates, whose teacher was Diogenes, whose teacher was Antisthenes, whose teacher was Socrates. And so you can see, once again, the big daddy
of philosophy.
It's so weird too if you see the statue or paintings of Socrates.
Yeah.
He's not like a guy that you lift up your eyebrows and are like, ooh wee.
Right. That's daddy.
I don't want daddy. No.
In fact, in a lot of these texts, people actually make fun of the way he looks. He's not.
He refers to himself often
ugly,
as being
snub-nosed, bulging eyes. I mean, just go look.
Just go have a peek.
Go look.
Just go have a peek.
That's daddy.
That's the daddy of all of these things. And so part of what he came up with as a concept that then ventured forth between Plato and Antisthenes and his other kind of disciples, if you will, was that virtue is what leads you to a good life. Previous to this, people's real focus was kind of if it feels good, then it must be right. You must be doing, and we'll have a lot of discussion about that later. But Socrates was the first person to come forward and be like, hey, there are these definitive things that when we look at who is the perfect being or who is and later the Stoics will call it the sage. What does Aristotle call it? The man of means, or what is, but a man of perfection. Essentially, they have this idea. And because of the time period, they would always refer to a man. But just know for Kylie and I here, we're just referring to the perfect human.
Yes.
Or I would be open for animals displaying this sometime in the future.
You never know.
You never know. You never know what's going to happen.
1,000 years. Well, maybe.
Maybe. We'll see. If we won't be around to see it, probably. But those virtues that we're going to be touching on over the next few episodes are wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. And so just a little bit, I'm going to start off with wisdom because often there's a lot of philosophers that kind of put wisdom at the top of the pyramid because you can't really have the rest of the virtues without having some sort of wisdom, which is also sometimes called prudence because the translation from Greek and then Roman, they could be either words.
Yeah.
In our society, it does feel a little different to say someone's prudent.
Yeah.
Is a little bit different than saying that they're wise.
Right.
But in this context, it's the same thing that we're going for, which is it's how to discern the correct course. It's a knowing, it's having enough knowledge, it's being thoughtful in a way that lets you know. And in Aristotle's words would be the golden mean, meaning not too drastic one way and not too drastic in the other.
Right. Not an excess and not a deficiency.
Exactly. Yeah. You somehow have the knowledge and wisdom to know the right way to go.
Yeah.
Then we have courage. Courage, also sometimes translated as fortitude. again,
Yeah.
feels a lot different to say courageous
For sure.
instead of fortitudinous.
But I like fortitude. Let's go with fortitude. That just sounds like a word.
Courage or fortitude in some ways is how you face a challenge. And so that might be how you interact, but this is somewhere we will really see people like them as philosophers kind of go into different directions with this.
Yeah.
So, there is this idea that goes, Plato to Aristotle.
Right.
By the time you get to Aristotle, courage is...
you have this like really narrow conception of what courage is for Aristotle. It is, of course, a virtue, just like all these other Hellenistic philosophers think courage is a virtue. But for Aristotle, it's like courage is you exercise courage in the face of death on the battlefield. Like, that's it.
That's courage.
That's where you exercise courage. Not like, you build up the courage to finally, call the dentist's office and make an appointment because you hate the dentist and you hate talking on the phone and making appointments. Like, that's not courage for Aristotle. It is just facing death.
That is so
on the
hard to
battlefield.
make that phone call, though.
His conception is so narrow.
Yep.
But then you see that that even though they all affirm these same 4 cardinal virtues, they have a different conception of each of them.
Yep. And in some ways, again, we were talking a little bit about translations and stuff like that. In this particular translation, courage, the word for courage was also meant manly.
Manliness, yeah. Yeah.
So already one of the virtues as far as Aristotle is concerned is being as manly as possible. Which I really try to do. That's why my shoulders are so broad.
Exactly.
Not because of genetics, because I'm like
courageous.
I'm so courageous with my wide shoulders. And then we have temperance, which is also sometimes translated as moderation. And I think in this, in our time, because of, I think the connection with this, with like the temperance movement, in the 1920s, like we connect it in some ways with vices, which also they will, but what they mean is as far as being one of the 4 virtues is this is how you interact or manage yourself. Mm-hmm. It's how you take care of your body. Mm-hmm. It's how you sleep at night. It's how you, it's just about your own self.
Right.
Like how are you keeping yourself in check or, building up these other kind of things. And then there's justice, which is, as a concept, I'm going to say is just how you interact with society.
Yeah. The
hard thing with justice is it's kind of its own special thing, and there's a really popular book that you may have heard of that actually like spends most of the book delving into this question. It's called The Republic. You may have heard of it.
Only maybe.
One of the most famous books of all time. But a lot of what The Republic is focused on is this question of, these other virtues seem to have an intuitive nature to them, where it's easy for us to like look at our own lives and our own selves and how we interact with it.
Right.
But when you get into a true discussion of how do you interact with justice, how does it look in society, and how does it apply to you personally? Because it might be easy to say court systems have to do with justice.
Right.
But I'm not a lawyer nor a judge.
Yeah.
Nor a criminal.
Yeah. Yet. Just
or
kidding.
That I would announce on a podcast.
Exactly. Otherwise, you'd be a bad criminal if
I'm
you
a
announced
super G. Oh, I am a bad criminal.
Because you would be so honest.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be like, I did it. I'm only letting our tens of listeners know. Don't turn me in, please. But this idea of justice continues to be like, how do you interact with it? How do you gain it? Who is systematically, being truly experiencing justice or not? And so those 4 pieces, wisdom, courage, temperance, justice, we will be spending a ton of time on. We won't be spending a ton of time. We will have this discussion of them. Yeah. And essentially for the next 4 episodes, just know we'll refer back to them a little bit, but that's the kind of starting point where Socrates is like,
Yeah.
here's what's up. And then all of these dudes
Right.
went their ways.
Yeah.
There may have been some ladies, but we will never know.
We just don't have records.
But all of this leads to the good life.
Yeah.
And this idea that you'll hear us talk a lot about flourishing.
Yeah.
And where does that idea come from, Kylie?
Yeah, I mean, so the idea of flourishing, we can think of as coming from the ancient Greek word eudaimonia. So if you hear us say the word eudaimonia, which is an ancient Greek word, this often gets translated to the English word flourishing, but it also sometimes gets translated to the English word happiness or welfare, or that, that mostly exhausts it. But I think probably the best translation of the word eudaimonia is flourishing, right? In other words, like the good life is a life of flourishing.
And I will just add, with the reason that flourishing sometimes is the better translation is because happiness sort of minimizes.
Yeah, right.
Only because of in society the way that we now use happiness so loosely.
Yeah, we tend to or at least it seems widespread that when we think about happiness, we're usually referring to implicitly like some kind of psychological state of like joyfulness, right? Like you tend to think of happiness as like
temporary.
Yeah, happy feelings, right? Like, oh, like the happiness you feel on your birthday because it's such an exciting time and it's just like overjoyed. But that's not exactly what the notion of flourishing or eudaimonia is. It's like flourishing or eudaimonia is a condition, right? It's a condition of like the soul or the spirit or your mind or whatever it is. Like it's a condition of being well, which doesn't reduce to feeling happy. Of course, like that might at times be part of it.
Yeah. You
exactly.
can have a bad day.
Yeah.
And still be flourishing.
Exactly. Right.
But sometimes we will still just use happiness.
For sure.
Because that's the shorthand to when we want to refer to that feeling of a pleasant kind of atmosphere, something you gain from a good moment, kind of thing. But but we decided to call it the good life.
Yeah. Right.
Instead of flourishing, because again, to me, this references this length of time. Like, I will admit, and I know this is crazy for anyone listening to this, I'm not perfect every day. But I do live a life of trying to be a person that is present with the world, and that I make decisions that lead to things that I feel good about. That's how I spent my time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think like a good way too that we can think about this notion of like a good life or living well is like feeling content in your life, right? Like, and that doesn't mean you have to have like achieved all the goals you want to achieve and you finished this and you completed that and you've checked all the boxes and like now, you can finally relax. It's like, no, it's like the whole way, even including all of the difficult, strenuous, challenging, but also wonderful, exciting, frustrating, like all of the kinds of emotions you might experience and difficulties that you might experience. Like you can still flourish insofar as, for these folks, you are exercising virtue, which is a kind of excellence. So then, here's the one last piece to the puzzle. You might think that the word virtue, the English word virtue, often gets translated from the ancient Greek word arete, which can also be translated to the English word excellence.
Yep.
And the way that gets cashed out might look a little bit different hither and thither, but we'll kind of touch on this along the way as we sort of talk about our Hellenistic four. Yep.
And also, I promise you guys, that's the only vocab.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm promising that's an empty
Don't make a promise. Don't make a... No. Let me
We
give
try
you.
not to get too academic with you guys, but in
also,
this case, we thought you really needed these
yeah,
extra
that's
bits.
a good baseline. Just to, and if you forget it, that's perfectly fine,
Yeah.
right? Like, there's no pop quiz.
Nope.
You can't fail this podcast. And also, we although we don't promise, we'll try really hard not to do that, because the point is to bring it right back to an ordinary context.
Yep.
And we also won't make a promise that we don't know we can't keep, because that's imprudent.
Ooh.
It's not. It's not a good.
It's not a good look to
It's
make
not.
a promise you don't know if you could keep.
Exactly.
And that's not a part of the good life.
Exactly.
We are now going to start with the weirdest possible way. We're going to talk about the Cynics.
Yeah.
The weirdest takeoff. And really this has to do with just timeline wise. The Cynics and Plato are happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Plato ends up being Platonic philosophy, and then his, Aristotle has Aristotelian philosophy, which have all their own ideas. But Cynics kind of come out and they go in this direction. And so we're talking about Diogenes. Mm-hmm. Diogenes, who is one of the first Cynics. Antisthenes was his teacher, and neither one of them probably would have, if you came and said, "Oh, I've heard you were a Cynic," they wouldn't be like,
yeah.
That's
yeah,
not
we
what
are. Yeah,
that's not what they called themselves.
Yeah.
He was born around 400 BC, which is the same time when Socrates was dying. So 399 BC, then all of this other stuff happens. So he never crossed paths with him, that part of things. But he definitely, when he moved to Athens, and when I say moved to Athens, he was actually kicked out of his hometown, because his dad was a banker and he decided to counterfeit coins. And I don't really know how that fits into the rest of his lifestyle. But he essentially counterfeits some coins. It gets cost. He gets put into, what's it called when you're kicked out of your country? Exile. Man, they loved exile during this time period. Yeah. Socrates could have chosen exile over suicide.
Yeah.
But he was like, I'm not buying into you guys' accusations at all.
Yeah.
So I guess this is whatever punishment you decide.
Yeah.
So he ends up in Athens, and as part of that, he is like super simplified his life, because he went from being this rich kid to like literally having nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time he gets to Athens, he's like, why would I own anything? Like, I don't need to own anything. And then there is a philosopher who's teaching these teachings of asceticism, which essentially means like, how would you, in the shortest way possible?
Maybe like self-denial, denying yourself, various objects of your desire.
Yep. Great. Maybe. Perfect. What are you, a philosophy professor with a doctorate? Thank you. So he moves there and he's like, okay, I love philosophy. I'm a really smart, educated guy because I came from a family as such. And he decides that he's going to live in essentially a public, some people refer to it as like a bathtub. Some people call it a wine jar. Mm-hmm. But imagine something that's like 5 kegs big. What would it, the size
keg
of
is a new measurement. Keg is a new measurement.
The size of a Vita bug.
Yeah.
Like a jar that's giant like that. It's like a giant.
Like a ginormous barrel, but maybe it's made out of a different material.
Exactly.
But it's more spherical.
Kind of situation.
Yeah.
And it's something that a liquid was either kept in or traveled in. So that's why they kind of call it a jar. We don't think of jars as being like
ginormous,
5 feet wide and 5 feet tall, but it was big. He lived in this jar, and he just had like a piece of cloth. He had a bowl, but one time he saw a little kid drinking water just with his hands. Like the kid was cupping his hands and just drinking the water. And he literally smashed the bowl and was like, what do I need a bowl for? I could just be using my hands to like cup liquid. Like that's the kind of, he's like, oh, I don't need this. And that is because part of cynicism is that in order to find the good life, there's these virtues, but they should be applied to your most natural animalistic life. Meaning that any possessions you have are just causing you misery. Like because then you have to care. First, you have to buy them, then you have to care for them, then you have to like hand them off to people. Sometimes you get like if you have things, people will steal from you.
Right.
So
It's a
you brought that up.
liability.
It's a liability now
Yeah.
that you have. Like so owning things is bad. Living in a house, like, oh, now you've had to pay for a house, and now
Right.
you have to have a landlord, and now
Yeah.
like now you have to clean it all the time.
Yeah. Ugh.
Like now you have so many responsibilities, and all of these things that society have told you are mandated
Yeah.
for you to have. Just like this is the normal thing you need,
Right.
a house. And now we would be like, yeah, I do need a house. But to cynics, what they're saying is like the closer you can possibly get to nature, the happier you're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
All of human misery stems from us removing ourselves from our true animal natures. And so that includes this idea, like, that also includes buying into societal rules.
Yeah.
So, like, Diogenes used to just pee everywhere. Like I said, he only wore this tiny cloth. So if it was hot, he just didn't wear the cloth. He's like, that is for when I'm chilly. Like, I'm not wearing that.
Drop it like it's hot.
Drop it like it's hot. And then this is where he comes into being a humorist, because when the Athenian police would come, whoever they are, the guards would come and be like, hey, this is indecent. Like in public, you need to be wearing clothes or whatever. He would be like, I am not a party to your rules. Like, I am not an Athenian. I'm a cosmopolitan. I am a citizen of the world.
Yeah.
And so my only rules are what the rules of nature are.
Right.
And if whatever gods they are didn't make me with clothes on, then
Right.
I don't
need it. I
I'm
don't
not
want
prescribing to your rules.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, well, then you have to pay a fine. He'll be like,
I don't have money.
I don't have what
I live in a jar, bro.
Yeah. Like, oh, you want to take me to jail? Cool. Then you're going to feed me for some day. Like,
Free
I'm just
meals.
in another place where I
Yeah.
get to do the same thing
Yeah.
with it. Because these aren't my rules. You're just, in my mind, when you take me to jail, you're providing me with like, oh, nice bed and food.
Yeah.
I'm not punished.
Stuff I don't actually need.
Yeah. And I'm not buying into the punishing aspect of it because I don't see what you're doing as a punishment.
Yeah.
Like, to me, you're just gifting me with things
Yeah.
to do. So some of the so that is like the part of cynicism that really sets cynicism apart from the other Hellenistic philosophers, because none of them have this extreme resistance to society.
Yeah.
And I will say the Cynics, even to like, so Diogenes lived this crazy extremist version of this, right? He's like living in a jar or whatever. But in the Cynics, they have these same ideas, even with like family ties. Society has told you that you are supposed to be attached to your family. But that is a societal thing. That has nothing to do with being virtuous. There's nowhere in the virtues where you should show preference to anyone in existence, much less like, oh, but this is my mom and this is my dad and that's my auntie. And like, that's all society telling you that you're supposed to care. Like, if you look at the animal kingdom,
Right.
very few animal groups keep a family dynamic,
Right.
You know, or even if there is a family dynamic, they're still not like, I'm going to feed myself. If I'm an animal, I'm feeding myself first.
Right.
I'm not going to get meat and then bringing it to my like
pack.
my pack for them.
Yeah.
So although you might as a pack take things down, like, and this isn't a rule across the board. I know all of the zoologists out there are going to be like, well, actually, so that's an extremist version of trying to live a virtuous life, right? Like temperance to the low, because you might even see it as being like, okay, are you truly treating your body right by living in this jar in all sorts of weather and whatever? And I think Diogenes would be like, well, the proof is in that I'm still alive and healthy, and obviously I'm not affected by the fact that I live in this jar. Apparently he was really good at sports. So it wasn't like he was just sitting in his jar all day either. He like went to the gymnasiums and was like, he would like show out and be better than everybody at like races, or
My gosh.
throwing rocks or whatever it is that people do in the gymnasium.
Even though he was so seemingly had to have been undernourished.
Yeah, because he's just like begging for food, or
He's just like,
taking. I don't even think he probably begged for food.
Yeah.
He probably just like literally people were like,
Took
I
pity.
love Diogenes.
Oh, they loved him. They didn't pity him.
because he was hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, it still had to be pity. How badly must he have stank?
Oh. Well, what with all the urination in every
Just in
which
public.
corner.
And he's
Oh my
not like,
gosh.
yeah, who knows that he's doing that. So some of my favorite stories about Diogenes, apparently Alexander the Great ran into Diogenes a couple of times. And there are these stories that have like survived there's many of them. Kylie made me cut it down. She's like, listen, we cannot fangirl out about Diogenes.
Prudence dictates.
Every once in a while, just in regular conversation, I'm like, you know what Diogenes did? But Alexander the Great, like, who saw, like, you know, like, had heard stories of like Diogenes carrying his lantern around, and he'd carry his lantern around during the day with it fully lit and go and put it in people's faces. And when people were like, what are you doing with that lantern? He would be like, I'm searching for the wise man, you know, kind of saying like, it's impossible to find a wise man.
Yeah.
Even with all the light available, you can't. There's none to be seen
Yeah.
anywhere. They don't exist anymore.
And all of you guys that I'm holding the lamp in front of, well, you're not virtuous.
You're
Sorry.
you're not the
It's
virtuous
not you.
man.
You're not him, as they say.
As they say, the youths.
The youths.
They're just they also are bringing it back.
Bringing it back to
Bringing it
Diogenes.
to him. But Alexander the Great, on a few different occasions. So one of the times that I loved, he went to Diogenes, who like seemingly is living like a dog. You'll see
Yeah.
him represented with dogs all the time, which he thought was an excellent way to refer to him, because he's like, what beautiful, amazing animals. We should be looking to them. You know, like they don't go pee in a toilet.
No, I have no more awes to give.
But you know, they are, especially then, like not as domesticated. They're opportunist eaters.
For sure.
They'll stay healthy, just like
Absolutely.
scrapping around.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's just like this dirty, scrappy man, but obviously everybody loves him. He's hilarious. So Alexander the Great goes to him and is like, Diogenes, I will give you anything you want. You tell me, what in the world is it that you want? And Diogenes is like laying out on the grass and looking up at Alexander. You can kind of imagine in the story the sun's behind Alexander, and Diogenes is sort of squinting up at him from the ground. And when Alexander's like, what, anything, you name it, I literally rule the free world. Well, I say free, I don't not mean to say free, the known world at the time, essentially, ruled it. And Diogenes is like, I'd like for you to just move out of my sunlight. That's not riches, not anything, just a smart aleck answer of like, I just want you to move over
Just
a few
like
feet.
a little to the left, if you could.
Another time that Alexander the Great was talking to Diogenes, he says, if I were not Alexander the Great, I would want to be Diogenes, which is like a huge compliment. Like crazy compliment. Again, leader of the known world. Diogenes' reply was, if I were not Diogenes, I too would want to be Diogenes. He's like full of self-love.
Yeah.
He's like,
look, I mean, he is living what he takes to be the best way to flourish.
Yep.
Right? And his self-report, like he has to self-report that if I was not living this life, I would want to.
This life.
This is what I would want.
This is the best possible
This is
life.
flourishing.
This is
I
flourishing.
am living well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I do think that through all of his like travel, because he also would like travel, you know, he didn't live anywhere. So he would just come and go and whatever.
Yeah.
Like apparently one time the like, you know, the police or whatever, you know, ever in Athens like smashed up his jar.
Oh my God.
Because they wanted him to stop. They're like, this is like, we're trying to clean this
gross.
up. We need you like to go find a house. Like every rich people in this town would love to house you.
Yeah.
Because you're like cool, interesting.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want you at a dinner
For
party?
sure.
other than that you stink.
Yeah.
And then you know what the Athenians did? The people of the city?
What did they do?
They bought him a new jar.
Oh, that's how much they loved him.
They're like,
That's so nice.
They're like, yeah, you smashed that, but look,
Yeah.
it's right back to it. So one of the things that I reflected on with this story, like there's all these funny instances that you can kind of be like, this is cute that Diogenes is doing it. And he's doing it with such a thoughtful,
Yeah.
like, mind.
Right.
But if you didn't talk to him, right, you would just see some dirt bag
Yeah.
living with some dogs, having a little slip of cloth, maybe. You might just be seeing all
Everything.
nature's giving him,
Bits and bobs.
all the things. 2,000 years later, we're still like, yeah, Diogenes living the good life in such a weird way. And so I just wanted to reflect on, in society now, you know, there's all these judgments, and I am a party to this too. When we look at people who are, and I just want to take out of this scenario, I'm not talking about mentally ill people that can't live in society because their mental disposition doesn't allow them to. I'm talking about people who fully mentally capable have decided that what we've set out as the norms of society are not for them. So things like hobo culture, which is coming back a lot, but like is something that we would have assessed like in the early 19th, late 19th, early 20th century. It was like a much bigger kind of culture.
Yeah.
But is now making a resurgence. But hobos, technically, although mostly associated with trains, are people who sort of just move around. They don't have a specific place that they live.
Right.
And have this culture of living outside of it. So that, you know, just only temporary jobs, moving from here to there.
Yeah.
And then, like freegans.
Yeah.
So freegans, if you're not familiar, is a phrase that earlier Kylie was like,
I was like, I've never heard of that before.
I don't know what you're saying, but I love those words squished
Good
together.
words. Good words.
Instantly curious.
Yeah.
And freegans are people who live off of only discarded items. So essentially they strive to spend as little money as possible. Like they really do not want to have anything to do with consumerism. And part of that is a byproduct of living in such a rich country that their whole movement is about like, hey, there is so much stuff that we throw out that is fine. Like there's nothing wrong with it. So I, as a person, am just going to live off of that.
Right.
So that also includes a lot of dumpster dive. Freegans are usually directly associated with dumpster diving culture.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of times for food, but also it's for clothes, electronics, furniture. Like essentially they set up their entire lifestyle. It wouldn't be that far from, you know, whereas the hobos are like always on the move.
Right.
And I apologize if the word hobo is in any way, I don't know if society has decided like that it's like a negative connotation, but people who I know in that population use that word. So
that's
we may
a
have
self-referential word. Yeah.
But hey, there are other words that are self-restoration.
Yeah.
I'm half gypsy and I feel like I'm allowed to still say gypsy, but all of society has been told like you're not allowed. It is a degrading term, you know? But what are you going to do when your grandma tells you that's where your people are?
That's what you are, yeah.
That's what your people are. And then I would also put in these kind of like, in with the freegans are people who lead off-grid lifestyles. So people who are just like, I'm going to live out in the desert and only use solar energy and dig a well. And like, I'm just not participating in like, oh, you want me to pay taxes? I'm going to hide from that as long as I can because I'm not a member of your society.
Right.
And I bring up all of these these populations because in some ways we look down upon. When I say we, I'm saying me at some point in my life or in my initial judgment before I then overlay my virtuous ideals. Like, ooh, I should change my mind about that because whatever, ... But you apply, like, they're doing the same things that we admire about Diogenes. But why do you think it is that we have these kind of judgments where we're, like, anti them?
It's hard to make a direct comparison between our society today and Diogenes's. But, like, might I venture to say that we've become such a consumerist society to such an extreme degree that the value placed around like the structures that hang around that kind of idea are so much more ingrained. I don't know. It's hard to say whether that was the case in their own way in Diogenes' time, but like it's so ingrained in our society and culture that any deviation from it is seen as deviant, and deviant is seen as bad, right? There's like a normal way to live, and of course I'm using that term normal like very particularly because there's like this model of like this is what is socially sort of acceptable, and maybe there's some fringy things around it that are like, that's a little weird, but it's fine. But then the further and further you get outside of that orbit, it's like now you're some kind of something's wrong with you look, people thought that of Diogenes in some way. Something's wrong with you. You should have some other desire, or like you should want to contribute to society or something like that. But
which he was.
Yeah, which he was.
Just not financially
right.
Or working.
Yeah. Or any of the...
I mean, if you think of his work as philosophy.
Yeah.
You know?
But I mean, I think like, here's like an interesting middle case, right? So you have the like total conformist to society, which by the way, that's not a bad thing, right? You have the total like, we live in a house, I have a job, you do the whole thing, right?
Because we'll get in with Aristotle, you need all of those things to be virtuous, but that'll be next episode.
Yeah. And so you have this quote unquote normal kind of living by the accepted norms and standards of society, conforming to a higher or lesser degree of like pursuing your desires and having material possessions. And then you have the very extreme, right? The quote unquote hobo culture, or the train kids, or the freegans, or whatever. But here's this like interesting middle case that also can itself be expressed in like a more extreme or less extreme way. That the thing that we've come to call like the digital nomads, right? And like people who like, like van life stuff, which can be done in a much more simple, according to nature type of way, but can also be done in a really consumerist, sort of glamorized way, right? So
the
like
gram life.
Exactly. Like the influencer version of it. And again, this is like, this is not a negative connotation, but it's like, even that can be expressed in like a more extreme or less extreme way. But like, we tend to think that like, like the notion of the digital nomad, right? These are people who have remote jobs, who can basically work from anywhere. And so they don't really have like a static home. They go from living in Mexico City to then living in, Massachusetts. And then they go live in, like the Yukon area of
Who
Canada. Yukon? I don't know.
I want to be besties with them. Do
I
they
know.
need a personal assistant?
Yeah, right. But you also are remote, so you can be from anywhere, which would be amazing.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, but maybe the sense in which, I don't know, that's less vilified or something like that is because you have a job, right? You're like contributing to society, even though you're in some ways detached from the ordinary way of doing things. Like you are nomadic, but you're still like working and contributing. And so maybe in that sense, it's seen as less deviant or weird or something like that. But like the train kid is like, well, you're dirty or you're whatever. It's like, but why is that so? I don't know. Like, I don't, why is that?
Why do we feel resistance to it?
Yeah.
Like, why is there that judgment? I don't make judgments when I go and I'm looking at everyone's gardens where I'm like, oh, ornamental food. I'm like fascinated either way. I'm like, I can't believe people can grow things or look at these plants, look at these, whatever. But the reason I bring that up is because like, those are lifestyles I make no judgment on. Right. I'm just, it is an observation. It is like, they're like whatever, people are just living their lives.
Yeah.
But in my past, and something that I think is like a great influence to think about Diogenes, I definitely think that I have not considered the intentionality of living these lifestyles.
Yeah.
Like with freegans, I might be like, Like, I don't mind them dumpster diving or whatever, but there's some kind of judgment of their lifestyle where I'm like, ew. Like, what you've decided to do is be scavengers, like societal scavengers. But we need societal scavengers, just like in
For
the
sure.
natural order of things.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a process that everything
Absolutely.
goes through. And why have we decided that these, what I'm calling scavengers, or like
Yeah.
the people who've decided we're just going to use what other people have already
What's already there?
what's already
It's
there.
already there.
Just like with the trains and stuff.
Yeah.
The train is already going
Yeah, exactly.
on this track.
Yeah.
The fact that I'm not paying you for the seat, even though it would be empty if
Yeah.
I weren't in it,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
so in their view, it's a neutral
Yeah.
ride.
Carbon neutral.
But I mean, whatever, we judge them for that. They're like, well, I paid for my seat.
Yeah.
But there is a sense of that where it's like, well, I paid for that seat because I don't like the stress of not knowing if I have
Yeah,
a seat.
right.
I'm not someone who wants to press against society in
Yeah,
the way of like being
sure.
policed.
Yeah.
I don't want to like try and hide or whatever. So what I'm paying for
Is peace of mind.
is peace of mind,
Yeah.
is acceptance,
Yeah,
societal acceptance
Yeah.
of like, you as a society have said there's this rule. I
Right.
am not putting energy into resisting that
Yeah.
rule.
Yeah. And it's also yeah. So like if you don't, right, if you want to reject some of these aspects of society, maybe your actions are different. You might think like, well, that's wrong because how do we have order and this and that? And it's like, I don't know, there's something to be said for like, if you're not harming anyone, like, like if your actions, though they might, cross some legal lines.
Like Diogenes
you know?
peeing in public.
Yeah. Or like being nude, which is
Being nude.
indecent.
Yeah.
But like, if, maybe you'll cross some legal lines, you have to be willing to accept the penalty should it come your way. Like you can't just, you know what I'm saying? Like you
Yep.
can't now, be some kind of agitator in the face of somebody legitimately trying to whatever.
Yeah.
But also like, I guess what I'm saying is like, the judgment of other people, like, the moral judgment or whatever it is from other people, forget the legal question, the moral judgment of like, well, you're just, you're a bad person or something like that, or you're doing something wrong, not in a legal sense, but just like straight up wrong for like not buying that ticket, where like, if you genuinely are the kind of person like Diogenes that wants to reject all of these social norms, like you don't agree to them, whereas contrast that with some people like us who maybe like we're like whatever, it's
Sometimes
whatever.
we might push back a little.
Yeah, but also like we buy the ticket for the peace of mind. Somebody else doesn't
Yep.
care
And
about the
because
peace of mind.
I'm like, I can afford to help the railroad stay
sure.
in existence by paying for my ticket and
Yeah.
blah, 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 doing the thing. And I just don't have this mindset of resisting. But this
Yeah.
is all to say, this is how, even now, the good life is not a prescriptive thing. There is no, just like, here is the recipe for a good life.
There's no book.
Because Diogenes was like you said earlier, in his mind and to his purpose, he was flourishing
Yeah.
in the greatest possible ways. Like,
Yeah.
he was living his philosophy, doing it every day,
Yeah.
and like great happiness. There's so many stories. People should go and just like look up like how weird he was. And there is a different famous Diogenes, Diogenes Laertius, who is a famous historian. So he lived in like 500 AD. But anyways, you want Diogenes of Sinope, and you'll know real quick that you're following the right guy.
Look for the dogs.
Look for the dogs.
Look for the dogs.
Look for the dogs. But he was living his greatest flourishing life. People admire him now for it. People admired him then for it. But admiring someone living their best life doesn't mean you need to apply all of those same things to your life.
Right.
Because I think in modern times, and something we've talked about previously with like communitarianism or whatever, like everyone is sort of a little bit different, and it all feeds into society as we have it. So my flourishing would not include, I hate being cold. I would not want some little scrap of thing.
No.
I don't need to prove to anyone.
Right.
Like, look how great I am at being a
Minimalist.
cynic. Yeah. Look at my asceticism just through mind over matter.
Yeah.
I don't need that. I
Yeah.
need a
Comfort.
bed with a blanket, a sheet,
A sheet.
a blanket, pillow.
A stainless steel pan.
I don't even, when I say bed, because I lived in the woods a long time, it could be a thermarest.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't want to be like on the ground
Yeah.
or in a jar.
I currently sleep. So I have a mattress, to be clear.
Nice.
But
You're like, I own a
mattress. I no longer use a pillow. I use a towel and I just roll it up. Like I fold it in half, like a shower towel.
Yeah.
I fold it in half and then I just roll it up and I put it under, like at the nape of my neck. And I sleep with a towel and it's amazing.
Madame Diogenes.
Yeah. Madam D.
You know, that's how geisha sleep too.
Oh,
They don't
really?
sleep with it because it'll mush their hair.
Oh.
So they sleep, their pillow is a neck, that thing that supports their neck, not their head.
Not their, yeah. Because, yeah, it's better for my spine, I think.
Former life, you were a geisha. Okay, so for applied philosophy, I want to just encourage you guys, because I'm not trying to have you go live a weekend as a homeless person.
Go pee wherever you want in your own house.
Oh my gosh.
That would be horrible.
How you'd have to clean it up then?
You would have to clean
And
it
it would
up.
smell so bad.
Oh, don't do
because
that.
our houses are so clinic,
Yeah.
clean these days. Instead of that, you could do that. That's
could.
Kylie's idea. So I want to encourage people to go out and have what's called a forest bath. And it's a hippy dippy thing. It's akin to meditation, but you don't have to think about it as a meditation unless you are someone who does meditate. And what I'm asking you to do is essentially just go meditate somewhere outside. But the idea of a forest bath is that when you go into nature, there is something cleansing about that we cannot, even to this day, put in a precise kind of name to. It is this just feeling of like a peaceful kind of connectedness.
Yeah.
That when you eat, just you don't have to go and can't go camping. I'm just talking about you're driving down the road, there's a forest, pull off to the side, go stand in the trees.
Yeah.
Again, not on a highway.
No,
Don't
well,
pull off on a highway to sleep.
Don't sleep there.
Don't sleep there off the highway. But or like go walk in a park, or go sit, if you live in an urban environment, just go sit in a park somewhere. But take the time to kind of like do what I call touch grass, like go touch some grass, breathe, listen to, don't have on your headphones, just listen to whatever nature that there is, and just breathe that in. And there's something about it bringing you back to your animal self, like just having a moment of humanness that doesn't have to do with society. It doesn't have to do with, like it's just a human moment. Forest bath.
Forest bath. From What We Gathered is brought to you with gratitude by Tyler Olson, our sound producer, editor, performance wrangler, Danny Nelson, co-host and producer, and me, co-host Kylie Shahar. A special thanks to Sam Fisher for our music, and thank you to those from whom we've gathered, our teachers, scholars, historians, lovers of wisdom, the internet, and of course, thank you, our listeners.